Late on the afternoon of September the 3rd, 14-month-old Peter Ian Smithson was admitted to Fulchester General Hospital with multiple injuries to the head and body. Subsequent police investigations centred on 25-year-old mother of three, Mrs. Sheena Smithson. Although she claims Peter's injuries were caused accidentally, Sheena today faces trial in Fulchester Crown Court on the charge of attempting to murder her baby son.
Sergeant Harcourt, when the accused first made this statement that you've just read to the court, how would you describe her attitude?
Well, she was anxious, of course.
Could you tell why this was so?
Because of the condition of the injured child, sir.
Do you know if there were any other reasons for her anxiety?
Madam?
Well, she was giving you an account detailing the infliction of horrendous and near-fatal injuries on her baby son. Now, what tone did she use to deliver the statement?
Well, she was quiet and collected, I suppose.
And did she remain like this throughout her time with you?
No, madam. When she was actually charged and told she couldn't go home, she began to cry.
How did she behave then?
Rather the same as when I first asked her to come down to the station.
What way was that?
Well, she was very upset. She said she was concerned about her two daughters.
In what way?
Well, she said she didn't want her mother-in-law to look after them. She didn't want that at all. She had to be forcibly restrained.
You mean she became violent?
Briefly, yes. Certainly hysterical.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Sergeant Harcourt, the injuries were so severe that they could only have been caused either by the child tumbling down the concrete stairs, as Mrs. Smithson says, or alternatively by the use of a blunt instrument.
So I understand, sir, yes.
Well, no such instrument has been found, has it?
A number of items were found in the flat which could have been used, sir.
Oh, yes? Such as?
Well, an electric iron, rolling pin, heavy saucepan, carpenter's mallet, some heavy kiddies' building blocks that were in a corner.
And these potentially lethal objects, are they being produced in evidence?
No, sir.
Why not? Well, shall I tell you why, Sergeant? It's because on not one of them was there found any trace of skin, blood, hair, nothing to indicate they had been so used. No proof at all.
No, but there would have been ample time to clean any instrument used in such an assault, so that such a search would be unlikely to produce any satisfactory evidence.
Says there would have been ample time, 18 hours, no less, for the stairs to have been cleaned before they could be examined.
Quite so, sir, yes.
You must have found this delay somewhat odd. An alleged assault of the most brutal nature, and yet it was the middle of the next morning before anyone bothered to notify the police.
That's not so unusual in cases of child assault.
Oh, you deal frequently with such cases?
Far too frequently for my liking.
Rather prevalent amongst the mothers of Fulchester, is it?
A certain class of mothers, yes.
Certain class? What class?
Usually young.
Yes.
From the lower income range. Mm-hmm. Usually with several other kiddies in the family.
I see. So when you were called in to investigate the Smithson incident, you recognized the pattern. You said to yourself, a small council flat, overcrowded, several kids, young mother, nasty, yet another child basher.
My lord,
Oh, Mr. Lotterby, just stick to asking and not telling, eh?
My lord. Sergeant, these cases, they must be very distressing for you.
They are.
Signs of malnutrition, general retardation, squalid domestic circumstances, and I believe cigarette burns are a not uncommon characteristic.
I have known it, sir, yes.
So in these respects, the defendant's case was entirely untypical.
I suppose so.
A bright, neat, clean home. Two little girls, immaculately cared for. Baby Peter, anything but undernourished, let alone tattooed with cigarette burns. Correct?
Near enough.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you, Sergeant Harcourt. You may stand up.
I call Jack Percival Smithson, my lord.
Jack Percival Smithson, please. This way, sir.
So, Mr. Smithson, you did in fact say that you contacted the police very soon after your arrival home on the morning of the 4th.
I could see there was no else for it.
But you were reluctant to do so.
Well, of course I were reluctant. Well, Sheena's my wife. It's just that when it's a question of safety first and protecting innocent children from, well, you know, something harmful.
And you consider your wife to be just that? Potentially harmful to the children?
Oh, not to the two girls, mind. Not to Jean and Fiona.
But to Peter?
Aye, with the lad she's different. Always has been. It's almost...
Almost as though she's got a down on him?
Oh, aye, that. Certainly that. Poor little bloke.
Now, Mr. Smithson, have you ever, to your certain knowledge, seen your wife strike Peter?
Strike? Well, you see, what you've got to understand with Sheena, it was a difficult birth.
Peter's was?
Breech, caesarean, premature, well, you name it. And it was that gave her these moods.
Moods?
Aye, like depressions. Oh, I know that's to be expected when it's difficulty with feeding and treatment and things. And, of course, I did my best. And my mum, too, when she'd let her. But it was as if she was, well, changed.
You mean a personality change?
Well, she'd always had this thing about keeping them clean all the time. Oh, spotless. Well, that were easy enough when it was just the two girls, but our Petey's got this delicate tum. 10 minutes after he's bottled and up it all comes. All over the shop. Well, of course, that would never do. Not for Madam.
I see.
And then there was his other end, almost as often. Well, it just used to drive her up the wall sometimes.
And it was on these occasions that she'd strike him?
Well, honest to God, it's as if she didn't know what she were on. Beside herself, and all the time this bloody clean.
Now, Mr. Smithson, you say you came back from a sales trip to Wigan and then you heard about what had happened. Now, why did you report the whole matter to the police instead of accepting that it was just an accident?
Well, because it wasn't no accident. Well, I mean, there was the door.
What about the door?
Well, it would never have been open. Not the way she says it was. Not for our Pete to crawl out. Keep slip chain on the all the time she does. Because of our two girls.
You mean like the cleaning? The door is another one of her things?
Aye. Well, it was the reason why she went to housing people to get a place on ground floor. Somewhere up near the new Kenlow estate, she fancies. You know, with a bit of a yard, like.
Well, that's reasonable enough.
Aye, well, you try telling council.
As I believe she has done on numerous occasions.
Too numerous for my way of thinking. You can push that sort of person too hard.
Yes. Now then, you say that before Peter's birth, your wife was perfectly normal.
A good wife and mother, no complaints.
And your relationship with her? Were you happy together?
Like a couple of lovebirds.
Then there was this difficult birth and a difficult baby.
A year ago. Well, a bit more. Aye, that's all it is. And, spiky. Moody all the time. Always working herself up into a state.
About what sort of things?
Oh, about all sorts of things. About money. About, my mum. About getting a better place to live. About going down south. What about, where I'd been and who I'd been with.
You mean your wife suspected you of infidelity?
Oh, aye. That and all. Reckons I'm at it all the time like a rabbit, she does.
Mr. Smithson, I'm sorry to have to ask you this, but have you ever given your wife grounds for these accusations?
Grounds? Aye. Plenty. Well, I'm a sinner, you see. I don't say me prayers. I swear from time to time. Take the odd jar. Well, part of the great permissive society, that's me. Well, no, that's grounds enough for her, you know.
I see.
Mind you, I'm not saying I'm the perfect husband. I've got me cash worries like everybody else. Inflation. HP, me mam to support.
But nothing you weren't able to manage as long as your wife could cope with things in the home.
Exactly. Well, it's as if after that birth, it left her a bit, you know.
A bit what, Mr. Smithson?
Well, a bit touched. You didn't know, with these moods, what she would do next. Well, what she might do.
Thank you, Mr. Smithson.